What's up, YouTube? It's time for a review of the new Maroon 5 record, Red Pill Blues, out this past Friday, November 3rd. It's been over 3 years now since the last Maroon 5 record hit the shelves, so to speak, digital or otherwise. Although, depending on how you feel about the band's more recent output, you could argue that the last Maroon 5 album came out in 2010, and that was called Hands All Over. All you have to do is skim through the writing credits of Hands All Over and then contrast it with Maroon 5's two more recent albums to kind of understand what I'm kidding about here. Hands All Over and everything that came before it, that's the era of Maroon 5 where Maroon 5 was a band. You know, they wrote and performed their own songs using real musical instruments, and they sort of occupied that radio-friendly pop rock space, although in the case of Maroon 5, emphasis on the pop. But then there's this second act of Maroon 5's career, which began with their polarizing fourth record, Overexposed, in 2012, where the band brought in all these A-list hitmakers like Ryan Tedder and Benny Blanco and Max Martin to help write and produce these just full-on pop songs. These songs were just a huge departure from the crunchier, more rock-driven sound of their early stuff. Now, in the case of a song like Love Somebody, Maroon 5 was basically reduced to Adam Levine plus a dance beat. So a lot of people really hated Overexposed for being this sellout move or whatever. I myself, I actually didn't really mind it. It wasn't ideal, but there were some fucking hits on there. And when a hit is a hit is a hit, you can't deny it when you hear it, and a few of those songs really got me in that way. Plus, there's the fact that people like Ryan Tedder and Benny Blanco, these are the same people that were behind some of my favorite pop rap albums in that time of my life. Albums like Wiz Khalifa's Rolling Papers and B.O.B.'s Strange Clouds. So their stylistic fingerprints were already familiar to me. And ultimately, on Overexposed, yes, it was this huge, just shameless grab at the pop charts. But Maroon 5 still kinda had one foot in the band aspect of things. You could just tell from the arrangements of the songs, particularly in the latter half of the track list. There'd be a guitar riff there and a drum fill here that you could kind of grab onto. But that full transition into like, how the fuck is this still considered a band? That would happen on their next record, 5, which really did cross the line in that respect, and I really didn't care for. They had everybody and their mother writing on that record. Whether it was Ryan Tedder and Benny Blanco again, or it was Sia, or Dr. Luke, or Mike Posner. It was just like, hey, Adam Levine, just drop a fucking solo record already. This is so shameless. And now with this new record, Red Pill Blues, we are on the third album in a row of this conversation of like, where the fuck does Maroon 5 the band end and Adam Levine, the pop and reality TV juggernaut, begin? And Red Pill Blues is just like their last record, maybe even more blatant. I mean, other than multi-instrumentalist Sam Farrar, who has like 2 production credits on here, Adam Levine is the only member of the band with any sort of noted creative input, at least in the writing credits. And this laundry list of collaborators we have here. I mean, Jason Evigan, Diplo, Teddy Geiger, Charlie Puth, hip-hop producer Ben Billions, Julia Michaels, John Ryan, who's one of those One Direction co-writers, Justin Tranter, too, who wrote like most of that last Gwen Stefani record, which was so terrible. And of course, not surprisingly, listening to Red Pill Blues, you don't feel like you're listening to a band, or even like a well-put-together Adam Levine solo record, for that matter. Because you're not. You're listening to a compilation of the ideas of pop music's most prominent hitmakers. It's incredibly calculated, and emotionally, it feels that way too. This record is pretty soulless. And that has everything to do with not just this completely excessive orgy of hit manufacturers that happen to be involved here, but really the actual songs themselves. The songs on this record are such emotional and structural flatlines, pretty much across the board. None of these tracks build or escalate enough. They just kind of coast along on autopilot. There's no peaks and valleys, just a lot of loops and redundancy and, as a listener, snoozing. Like, take a song like Wait, for instance, which is actually one of the better ones, I think. With that song, once you've listened to the first minute and 8 seconds, you have heard the entire thing. Seriously, there's no need to keep listening, because once you've gotten through that first cycle, then you've got another nearly identical verse, just with different words, another copy and pasted chorus, and there's a little 20-second interlude, so to speak. I would use the term bridge, but it doesn't add enough to the song to be given that distinction for me. Then another chorus, then we're out. Like, the whole song is just same with a track like Girls Like You. You've got that same exact verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, chorus, done. just robotic kind of structure. And the verses themselves are like fucking 3 lines long. So it's not like they're going to be pushing any sort of story or narrative forward. They're basically just a placeholder until the next chorus comes around. And with Girls Like You, the entire song, save for like another one of those little 20-second bridge sections, instrumentally, it's just that one dumb guitar loop that's introduced at the very beginning of the song. There are hardly any changes in the production as the song moves along. I could not for the life of me point out any sort of peak or climax in this song. It's just fucking wallpaper. But I really get to laugh when we get to the middle of this track list and we have 2 consecutive songs that share the same fundamental cadence for both of their shitty hooks. First we have Lips on You, which is, I guess, a failed The Weeknd inspired attempt at something a little sexy, a little sensual, a little racy. It's so boring. But then the very next song, Bet My Heart, is the same fucking cadence. Put My Lips on You, Bet My Heart on You. Did no one notice this when they were putting this album together? Did none of the 6 band members that are pictured on the album cover, no one kind of said, wait, these 2 songs sound really, really similar and they're directly consecutive. And then, of course, for Maroon 5, the solution to a bunch of these songs getting very stale and predictable is to just toss in a couple completely unnecessary truncated rap verses to, to try and spice things up and add a little color, both figuratively and literally. A$AP Rocky on Whiskey, he's alright I guess, but Lunch Money Lewis on Who I Am, his opening lyrics are kiss you, kiss you, kiss you, hug you, hug you, hug you. What kind of bullshit is that? And I guess the other change of pace on this track list is the fact that the closing song, Closure, could have ended at like 3 minutes, but instead gets turned into like an 11-minute instrumental, as if just tacking that on to the end of this track list is somehow gonna make the whole record interesting. But going back to Who I Am for a minute, that actually would have been probably my favorite song on here if it weren't for Lunch Money Lewis's verse, and then this one really particular thing that's gonna be tough for me to explain, but essentially, for the last 10 years or so, I've used a guitar notation software called Guitar Pro to write music. And the way it works is essentially you tab or notate a song out and it can play whatever you've written back to you using MIDI instruments. And as it so happens, the clean guitar MIDI setting on Guitar Pro 5 sounds exactly like that stupid little note that enters during the post-chorus of this song. The first appearance of this note is like 53 seconds in. I know it's a weirdly particular gripe, but hey, it's my fucking review, right? And think about it. What would bother you more than knowing that the production to this song, or at least one little element of it, sounds just like a computerized MIDI file that you've been working with in very arduous, very tedious ways for like a decade of your life? But other than that, I really do have to give producer Ricky Reed props for this beat, because I can't help but be seduced by the hazy vibe of this instrumental. I just wish that one note didn't show up. As far as positives here, I still really do enjoy Adam Levine's falsetto. I think he's a wonderful singer, especially when he reaches up into that higher register, and that's showcased on songs like Wait and the single What Lovers Do, as well as Help Me Out, which Help Me Out might be my favorite song on the record. That cute little syncopated beat is pretty addicting. And even though I'm not really a fan of her, Julia Michaels is just on fire this year. And I think her and Adam have great chemistry on this song. Also, the opener, Best For You, that's a favorite of mine, mostly just for the instrumental and the fact that it's the one lyrical theme on this record that I can really grab onto. This idea of just knowing you're not right for someone and giving them the chance to let you go even when you still have such strong feelings for them. Because it's like, if you really cared about and really loved this person, you'd want them to be happy, even when their happiness might require you not being around. It's a pretty bitter pill, and I think it's something that pretty much everyone goes through at some point in their dating career. But I don't hate this album. The idea of it actually bothers me a lot more than how it sounds. This thought of this meeting of the minds between all these big pop songwriters, it just kind of makes me nauseous at how inorganic it is to make music like that. Which I realize I'm being kind of contradictory, because there are pop records that are made like this that I really like. But maybe it's just because those records are made by like Ariana Grande and Fifth Harmony types. This is made by a so-called band. I guess it just makes it a little more offensive. But the songs themselves, they're not terrible. They're just kind of there. They don't inspire hardly any feelings in any direction. So We'll probably see a couple more radio hits off of this thing before its cycle is over. I'm sure I'll be just as sick of those as I already am of What Lovers Do, and I already was of Cold before that, and Don't Want to Know before that. So the bottom line here is my faith in Maroon 5, the band, is really dwindling, as it should be. So I'll keep listening, but hopes are on a downward decline here. Red Pill Blues gets a 4 out of 10 from me. As always, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, or shoot me a message so we can continue to talk music, and I'll see you guys soon.